Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how are we doing today?
Doing good, man. Another fun week of football is in the books.
We had a fascinating week of football, so let's get right into it with our Week 7 recap. So you ready to do this?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go. Let's jump right in, starting with the Thursday night game with the Cardinals beating the Saints 42-34. Woo! Your thoughts on the Saints?
We definitely underestimated Arizona. My thoughts on the Saints, though, again, they're a coin flip of a team. There's been a couple of coin flips that happened this week.
Yeah, they are just one of many. But that was a really great Thursday night game. Andy Dalton with 3 picks. 2 of them were pick sixes. Woo! Rough outing for the Saints. But let's move on to some games on Sunday, starting with probably the upset of the year. Carolina Panthers beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-3. What's going on with the Bucs?
I don't know, but for some reason Carolina can't even lose correctly. They dump their entire team and then they come out and they embarrass Tom Brady. But let's think back to week 1 for a second. What was my bold prediction?
Tom Brady was going to have his worst year this year?
Yes, sir. What is happening right now?
It is happening right now.
It is imploding, and as someone who is not a fan of Tom Brady, it is fun to watch.
Fuck Tom Brady. So let's move on to team I hate, the Bengals, against the Atlanta Falcons. But the Bengals showed up, and Cincinnati won 35-17 in a very convincing win. Tell me, what do you expect with the Falcons this year?
I expected more this week, at least show up like you did last week when it comes to defensive improvement. That would be the only thing I would hope to see come out of them. But franchise history, historically wise, they won't. Bengals are for real, though.
Bengals are for real. And it scares me because my Baltimore Ravens just escaped the game against the Cleveland Browns 23-20. We had the lead, did not blow it. I was happy.
But you guys got it pretty damn close to blowing that lead. If it was just for a little bit more personnel on the Cleveland side, it may have been different. Keep in mind that's Jacoby Brissett keeping you guys at bay.
I will say this, though. Nick Chubb is a stud.
Oh, for sure he's a stud.
He's an absolute stud. Yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable, them two. So
it's great to see them in the running game do it very well. But you know who's also running the ball very well? Dallas. Dallas is running the ball very well. And the Dallas Cowboys, back with Dak, beat the Lions 24-6. Can the Cowboys contend for the Super Bowl?
Stop it. They'll be lucky to make a wild card run this year.
They'll definitely be in the playoffs.
I don't see them making a deep playoff run this year.
Oh, no, it's the Cowboys.
They got a bunch of teams to get past, and personally, I think they got to get past the Giants to do it.
And the Giants beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 23-17. The Giants are for real, though.
The Giants and the Jets alike, they're pretty unbelievable. What's happening in New York right now? It's fun football to watch. 3 teams away.
It is really fun football in New York right now, and everyone's repping their colors, and they should be because there's such great reason to be a football fan in New York. But let's move on to down south, where the Tennessee Titans took care of business against the Indianapolis Colts 19-10. And this week going forward, it appears Matt Ryan is injured. He threw out his shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be out for a specific length of time. So going forward for the Colts, they're going to be starting with Sam Ehlinger as quarterback.
It's going to be interesting to see. Pretty much, it's a shame about Matt Ryan being injured, but he's one of the oldest quarterbacks in the league. It's not long until he's gone too.
Well, he's 38 years old. This is his 15th season, so
it's not much longer we're going to see Matt Ryan in this league.
No, this may be his last year. But let's move on to Green Bay Packers and the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders upsetting the Packers 23-21. Woo! You called it too.
Yeah, because another one of the quarterbacks that I'm enjoying watch struggle is Aaron Rodgers. He is playing like absolute shit. Green Bay is completely unraveling because they lost their safety net. Lazard is young. He will turn into a good number 1 eventually after Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aaron Rodgers, I'm enjoying watching him struggle too.
It's very interesting to see, and we're going to talk more about the Packers later on this episode. They play against the Buffalo Bills this upcoming week. So let's move on to Denver, to the Mile High City, where not Russell Wilson lost to the New York Jets 16-9, and it was a low-scoring affair, but the Jets won, but at a cost. Their number one rookie running back, Breece Hall, is out for the year. So now they have Michael Carter, and they just made a trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars for James Robinson. And he's a very underrated running back in the league, but man, the Jags gave him for nothing for a fifth round pick.
Those for late round draft picks.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with the Jags, but I am interested to see the Jets this upcoming week against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, it's fun watching the Jets be above 500. It really is. It's fun watching them. It's fun watching the Giants. Again, New York football it's fun right now. It's fun in New York.
It's really fun in New York.
So can't help but respect what's happening.
It must also be this Sunday was probably a little fun in Vegas because the Las Vegas Raiders beat the Houston Texans 38-20. So, hey, when the Raiders win, it's a fun time in Vegas. And even when the Raiders lose, it's still a fun time in Vegas. But
well, yeah.
But can the Raiders start stacking wins?
I hope so. Last week I said I hope that this game would be like a slate cleaner for them. I really hope that's what it was. Putting up almost 40 points in a game, that should be a little bit of like a breath of fresh air going into the rest of the season. Like, we still are capable of doing that. Now let's just go out and do it. Let's go out and play and show that we are still who we were last year.
What was Al Davis's motto? Just win, baby.
Okay.
So let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks beating the Los Angeles Chargers 37-23. But this game wasn't even close. It was all Seattle all day, and now Seattle leads that division in the NFC West.
Interesting. Very interesting that Seattle is. No one expected them to be on the top of their respective division. But for the Chargers, again, it's upsetting what's happening with them. It's a shame Justin Herbert was playing hurt. They're getting injury ridden. Cam Akers can't run. I don't know what happened.
Cam Akers
on the Rams. Sorry.
I mean, they can't run either.
They can't run the ball.
But we'll talk more about the Rams later on in this episode. But let's move on to a game that we talked about last week, the Chiefs and the 49ers. We're in a convincing win. The Chiefs won 44-23. It wasn't even close. Mahomes, that offense was clicking on all cylinders. And at this point in the season, he looks to be the MVP frontrunner. He has the most passing yards and the most touchdowns so far. He has 20 touchdowns and over, I think, 2,000 yards, I want to say.
Okay.
So he's having an MVP
He's
year. Having an MVP year, man. So Mahomes is just on another level.
Mahomes is always just going to be on a different level, but I feel like on that same platform with him is Josh Allen. Them two are going to be battling for years to come for that MVP, and probably the AFC title game is going to be Chiefs-Bills for quite some time. That's what I see in the future.
I didn't doubt it, but I kind of called it that this AFC title game is going to be Bills-Chiefs, but in Buffalo.
Yes.
So we shall see if that is the case, but there's a lot of time from now until then. But let's move on to the Sunday night primetime with your Steelers falling to the Miami Dolphins. Your brief thoughts on that game?
Brief thoughts on that. We should have picked off Tua 4 times in that game, and we just dropped them. Just sheer drops, defensive loss, and it hurts to say that was a defensive loss on our part. We could have won that game defensively through turnovers and just putting up quick points, easy points, and we fumbled. It's a rebuild. I called it last season that we were going to be diving headfirst into a rebuild, and it wasn't going to be pretty. So here's the uglies.
This is the uglies. I'm a little skeptical on Kenny Pickett. I know he's a rookie, but I don't know how short or long his leash is going to be with Mike Tomlin. But I will say this. It was great to see Tua back on the field.
Yes, it was.
I want to give a shout out to Tua. It's great to see you healthy. Here's that you don't get any more injuries going forward. But hey, great to see Tua on the field.
Great to see Tua on the field. Keep your freaking head up, man. You run and you dive headfirst into someone's chest. I understand you already made a comment saying that you shouldn't have done it, so you owned up to it. Good. You're better than that. Come on.
So let's move on to the Monday night game, the last game of Week 7, with the Chicago Bears beating Bill Belichick and the Patriots 33-14. The first time the Bears have actually beat the Patriots in Foxborough.
Wow. That's wild.
Yep.
I like Justin Fields.
I like Justin Fields too, but I want to see them stack wins. I got to see more going forward.
I want to see more of 33-point outings.
That's what I want to see.
If they can show that they can produce that against Bill Belichick, then maybe they can show that they can do it throughout the year, throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah. Their schedule does not get any easier, but hey, if this is what the Bears can look like, I'm all for it. But
yeah, for sure.
But let's move on to Week 8 because we got some great games that we want to talk about. And let's start with the first game of Sunday, the Denver Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The last game this season to be played in London, which for the Jags is kind of like a second home game.
Yeah.
It's like a second home field.
There's always rumors that they're going to be shipped off to London.
And they're going to be the London Silly Nannies.
Family Guy made that up.
But this, I feel like for whoever wins this game, they're going to get back on track. Because we expected more from both teams at different points in the season. Now, we expected more from the Broncos before Week 1. And then Week 1, we're like, oh, well, this is kind of, it's the first game as the new team and stuff like that. And then, we'll have greater expectations for them. But they never lived up to those expectations. And the Jags, especially coming off of that win against the Chargers, we're like, oh, the Jags are contenders. The Jags are absolute contenders, but they have been on a losing streak right now, a 3 to 4 game losing streak. And it sucks, too, because some of those games is like those were winnable games, like against the Texans, a very winnable game. Against the Colts, the second time around, a very winnable game. And even this last week against the Giants, they could have won it. The final play was Trevor Lawrence throwing to Christian Kirk, getting stopped on the 2-yard line. You were this close. And I feel like if either one of these teams wins this upcoming week, they're going to take that momentum and hopefully roll it into some more wins. But whoever loses this game,
downward spiral.
Your season is done.
Yeah, for the most part. I have to agree with you when it comes to Jacksonville. Like they look good when they look good, they look great. But they're one of those teams that is the same thing. It's almost in the same vein as Detroit, where it's like they're entertaining to watch. They're better than Detroit when it comes to player staff and the whole nine like that, for sure. But they're in the same vein where it's when they play bad, you see a history long of ugliness on that field.
Yeah.
Like the Jaguars playing last week, they played well. They played real well. But you see sequences while they're playing, and they just play like absolute crap. Whether it's a missed blocking assignment, whether it's an offensive holding on a really obvious play where you should not be holding, letting people come in untouched on the defensive side, that happens all the time in Jacksonville.
More often than they would like.
So I hope that they can get it together and start playing the way they're right there. Just they have to break through that mental gap of we have been a historically bad team fundamentally, and we're better than that. So I hope that when this comes down, the Jaguars have got it together.
I hope so too. You know what it is? They have a good young core to them. Trevor Lawrence, he's still a good quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback by any means. He's still a good quarterback, but it's the team still has its flaws, and specifically on the offensive line, it hurts them because he's been sacked. Did I write it down? 17 times. I think it was about 17 times he's been sacked this season, and that's too much. Like, you can't get sacked that many times because you're going to give up the ball. He has 4 fumbles. Granted, that was all in the one game against Philly, and it was raining that day. But even still, you got to be prepared. And I feel like every game so far on this losing streak, they are not the most prepared team going into that week. And I think for London, being that they've done it before, obviously under different regimes, under different head coaches, with different personnel, but this is something that the Jags have historically done well in. They've done very well in London whenever they're there. I remember a couple years ago, they shut out the Ravens 44-7 one year in London. So they can definitely, like, if teams are not prepared, I think this is going to force them to be the more prepared team going into this week. Because it's like, look, you have to account that you have to get there a couple days early. You got to adjust. It's a different time period. It's a different culture. For some players, this is even their first time going overseas. And
sure.
So it's going to force a lot of the young guys to be a little bit more focused and a little bit more prepared going into this week. But also the same for the Broncos. Like, this is going to force them to be a little bit more prepared. But being that they're going to be without Russell Wilson and without Javonte Williams, without some of their core players, it's going to hurt them a little bit more because the players that you don't typically ask to get those reps and for them to prepare, you're forcing them into a situation where it's like, okay, we're going to ask more from you.
Right.
Especially this week in London.
So we're asking you for too much is really what we're doing, and we know it.
Is it too much?
For not Russell Wilson, yeah.
Rippin, I believe his name is.
Right. I'm pretty sure they're a rookie.
Mm-hmm. Did I write down his name?
No. No, you didn't.
Okay.
Pretty sure he's a rookie going into this game in London. I could be wrong. They're going to have issues going into London. Seriously, they really are.
Well, they have issues right now.
And going overseas with people with players who've never been there, not having I'm going to put this in air quotes, having your veteran mentality in the locker rooms, being that Russell Wilson will not be playing this game. He's been playing like crap, but, he's still got that veteran mindset to make the players prepared throughout the week. Mm-hmm. He may be playing bad, but what he says to the team will help the morale, and he's not going to be there on the field with them come game day. So that's going to take a very huge toll, I think, on the younger guys.
Yeah. I think it's all going to be who prepares more. We know going into this game, the Broncos' defense is really good, but their offense is horrible. They've only scored 8 total touchdowns this entire year. 5 passing, 3 rushing.
It's wild. That's really wild.
Like, you could double their amount of touchdowns, and Josh Allen alone has thrown more.
Well, yeah, he gets 8 touchdowns.
He gets 8 touchdowns, and even Lamar has more touchdowns. The good teams, they know to score.
You got to put points on the board. It's just what it is.
The Broncos can't. They leave too many points on the board.
And this is a team that's really, it's just missing expectations. And I thought in the beginning of this year that it was going to be a little difficult for Russell Wilson to adapt to playing in Denver. New playbook, new coach, new culture, new elevation. That's exactly what they're going into in London. But it's here. And you've seen how the team and him, how he struggles just going north from where he lived.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going north, and it just... Now you're going overseas.
Yeah.
and you don't have the guy who had to get through that. It's going to be a rough day for the Broncos. I see nothing but rough day come from the Broncos.
It's going to be, I think this is going to be one of those low-scoring affair games. The first team to get to 20 points is probably going to win.
Yeah. 21-10 type deal.
Yeah.
Something like that. But who knows? Maybe it could turn out to be like an entertaining game. Even though it's slow, low scoring, maybe it'll still have some like little flashes of, I want to see more of that.
Well, so far all the London games this year, the two that have been played have been very entertaining. The Saints and the Vikings, and the Giants and the Packers. And so now we get the Broncos and the Jags. I think this will be a very entertaining game, but maybe for different reasons than we expect. I think if you're a fan of defense, this is probably going to be a good game.
Right.
And we are fans of defense.
Love a good defensive game, but it has to be a good defensive game.
There's a big difference between an ugly offensive game and a great defensive game.
Right. And if it's an ugly offensive game, it's just going to be a snooze.
It's the Colts-Broncos earlier this year.
Probably one of the worst football games I've ever watched in my life. I've watched a lot of bad football games.
That was a really bad game.
That was probably one of the worst games I've ever watched. Period. It was terrible.
All these Thursday night games have been pretty hit and miss so far.
God, they've been mostly miss. They've been big whiffs.
Hey, Ravens play Bucks tomorrow, so we shall see.
We'll see about that. Any final thoughts on this game?
I'm actually looking forward to this game.
Okay.
And I hope, I'd like to see whoever wins this stack wins going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. But let's move on to the second game that we want to talk about this week, and that is the Cardinals and Vikings in Minnesota, a 1 o'clock game. Tell me, what are your expectations for this game?
This could turn out to be pretty high scoring.
Really?
I think it could be. I feel like the Cardinals was another team that missed a lot of expectations going into this year. But last week they played really well. The Vikings come out their true form. They're playing really well. Going into this game, I think this could turn to be like 42-35 finish.
Oh, so a really high-scoring game.
Yeah, like one of the highest-scoring games of the week. These are pretty explosive offenses going up against not the strongest pass rushes.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray, he can scramble under pressure. Kirk Cousins, he can throw real well, and he doesn't turn the ball over. He has very minimal interceptions. He has 9 interceptions this year. No, 5 interceptions this year. I'm sorry. Kyler Murray only has 4. So they don't turn the ball over. And having a lack of pass rush coming from both sides, they could have some fun. Let it rip.
Yeah. We're definitely going to see a lot of points on the board. I'm not sure if it's going to be that high scoring, but we're going to see the star players, the star playmakers for both teams show out. D-Hop is going to show out. Justin Jefferson, he's going to show out. Kyler Murray, he's a star. He's going to run the ball. He's going to run the ball himself. He's going to pitter patter his feet into the end zone at some point. But I want to see, because we know these teams are going to score. I want to see who's going to be the more dominant team when the game drags.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is there's points in the game where not every play is going to be a big play. What happens when either team forces the other to create a drive, like a 10-play drive, and say, okay, look, we're going to take away the big play, and can you beat us methodically down the field? And that's when the game is going to really, in a sense, drag. It's not going to be explosive highlights. It's going to be 2 to 3 yard plays with 4-yard play, maybe a burst of 10 here and there and stuff like that. When the game is slow, who's going to win?
So the game of attrition you're looking for.
I want to see, because there's going to be some pop-offs. We're going to see some big highlights in this game. Don't be surprised. you see Kyler Murray huck it down the field to D-Hop, or D-Hop just take it and run it down to the end zone. That's probably going to happen at some point.
Right.
Because you know who's going to be on him? Patrick Peterson for the Vikings.
That's a good matchup.
That's going to be a great
I
matchup.
like that matchup.
So that's going to be a great matchup. And you're also going to have Harrison Smith in the backfield trying to make sure that there's no deep shots in the end zone, but Kyler Murray's going to take those.
They're going to make them.
They're going to take them, and they're going to make them. And also for the Cardinals, Justin Jefferson on Budda Baker. Can Budda Baker?
I like that a lot.
These stars are going to be challenged, but they're going to shine. And I think it's both wide receivers I see having a big day because both teams are, I don't want to say reliant on it, but they play better when they feed those players the ball. Like the Minnesota Vikings, every time Justin Jefferson has had over, I think, like an 80-yard game, they've won. And the one game that he did not have, he had, I think, under 50 yards, was that loss to the Eagles.
Yep.
So maybe they're not reliant on these players, but these players are the gears that turn the machine that is their offense. And you even saw it last week with Kyler Murray. He played better when D-Hop was on the field.
Well, yeah, you always want to have a D-Hop on the field. You know, D-Hop is the frickin' second coming of Larry Fitzgerald. You know, he doesn't drop the ball. You throw it to him, he's going to catch it.
He's going to catch it.
You know, I think he has, in his career, he has like less than 20 drops or some shit like that.
I know Fitz has. I'm not sure about D-Hop.
D-Hop was pretty close.
He's close.
He had a couple of consecutive seasons where he didn't have a drop. Consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
So, when you put the ball up in the air and you have DeAndre Hopkins in your pocket, it's pretty concerning that if he doesn't catch it. There's something wrong if he does not catch it.
His hands are like magnets to the ball, where it's like he'll just stick his hand up and the ball will just get stuck right to it. It'll just be attracted to his hand.
And he's so tall, and his route running. Again, he's an elite wide receiver. It's good to see him back in uniform and back on the field.
When he's at his best, he's a top 3 wide receiver on the field.
Easy.
Like he's probably I would say the third best wide receiver in the league. Cooper Kupp probably the best right now, especially after coming after last season. Devontae Adams, just for exactly as everything he's done on his resume.
Right.
But D-Hop is there.
D-Hop, AJ Green, you know.
Not so much now, but
I would put him like in top 10. I'd put him 7.
In his prime,
Yeah.
he was AJ Green was undeniable. But he's even on the Cardinals this game. He may actually get some looks this week. So if they're double covering D-Hop,
He'll be open.
AJ Green will be there. He'll be there on the other side.
And he's another one with the freaking route running. His route running is sick.
So is Zach Ertz as well.
And Zach Ertz is big and physical. You need a tight end like that.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona is fit to win. You know, they have the pieces. They have not been playing well up to this point. You know, now that they have the ace in the hole, D-Hop, back on the field, maybe now it'll be a revival for them.
It's both of these teams. They're better offensively. Their defenses are more suspect, but the Cardinals' defense, I have a lot of concerns about, especially with the Saints putting 34 points on the board, even after throwing 3 interceptions. To give up that amount of points, even just typically throughout the weeks, it's concerning because I haven't checked the stats, but their defense is probably pretty low.
I don't think so, because they put up a lot of points.
Every game that I can imagine that they've given up at least 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
Just off the top of my head. But, yeah, I don't like their defense. I like their offense, and I like their offense now with DeAndre Hopkins back playing.
You see, I agree with you that their defense needs help, but I feel like where their defense lacks, their offense makes up for it in just how quick they can score. You know, listen, I'm all with you when it comes to defense wins games. You know, if you can't stop the team from putting points on the board, you know, you're not going to be able to win. But can Minnesota match the speed that the Cardinals can score in? That's where the argument of attrition comes in.
Mm-hmm.
When the long drives happen. Minnesota has them on that for time of possession.
Yep.
That's where historically they win that way. You give the ball to Dalvin Cook, let him eat. You give it to Kirk Cousins, he's going to step back, do a couple inside the number passes, and then boom, pop it over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's that. But the Cardinals can answer you, and they can answer you big.
I can see a 35-30 game. I can see somewhere around there. 40s, I'm not too sure. But I think I could definitely see this as a high-scoring game.
This is going to be a very high-scoring game. But that's going to be mostly because of lack of defense. The lack of secondary. You say Harrison Smith, I'm not taking anything away from him. He can't do it alone. He has 3 stellar receivers coming in on that offense.
Mm-hmm.
We just named them. A.J. Green, D-Hop, and Zach Ertz. They are nothing to trifle with, especially when you're one safety now post-prime.
Mm-hmm.
He's post-prime.
He is.
He's still playing well, but he is not what he was.
Oh, no. He's a cover safety. But I will say this, though. For the people that are thinking, like, wait, what are you talking about? Their defense isn't that good. They had 2 interceptions that ultimately became pick sixes last week. They had 2 pick sixes and 3 interceptions. Yes, the turnover differential is good. I'm talking about the yards given up.
And the points
given up. Their scoring defense is not good. Like, it was a great, and you're not going to get 2 pick sixes in a game again this season. If you do, happen. It's great.
Right.
But that's not.
You can't aim
that's
for that.
Not the expectation. Like, you should not expect that every week. It's great that it happened this past week, but it's not going to be the standard going forward.
Right. You have to focus on minimalizing points scored against. If your team can put up 35, you have to be able to hold the other team to 20.
Yeah.
You have to do it. And if it gets higher than that, it becomes problematic for both teams. But this is going to be a very high-scoring game.
I'd like to see it, man.
I like this game.
But you want to move on to our third game that we want to talk about?
Yeah, let's move on. Next game is Panthers-Falcons.
Another NFC matchup. And I know what you're probably thinking. The Panthers and Falcons? And why talk about these teams? Well, I will say this. The Falcons are playing a lot better than everyone's expected. Yes, they lost the Bengals last week. But the Falcons, think about this. As bad as the Panthers have been playing, they're only 1 game out from their division.
That's wild.
But don't let last week fool you. The Panthers are still a bad team, but this division is winnable.
It really is.
We thought the Bucs were going to dominate so far, but no, because they have not been dominating. It leaves the door wide open for a team like the Falcons or the Panthers. So and we've seen the Falcons play really good this year.
Yeah, we have.
Be very competitive. They're kind of like Seattle. We're better than people thought. They're chippy and they're just feisty. They're playing to the end in every game. It's not for lack of offensive weapons or anything. They just play hard. They're kind of like they fall in that same vein as Detroit, where they're chippy, they're feisty, they're very competitive, and I think that's what is really good in this Arthur Smith-led team, is that they're competitive in every game they play. And I'm not sure for the Panthers if that momentum from last week is going to carry over into this week. But I would really like to see it because the Panthers, even though it's hard to say good things about them because they're playing very bad. But if they pick up the momentum, they could win this. They can win games and win this division. Because that win over the Bucs, that's a divisional win.
It's a big win, too.
That's a big win. If you can carry that over, oh, man, that win's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot going forward.
Especially now being that you got that win at the halfway point. Like, now is when everything starts to count. Like, every game counts. And every division game counts for double. Every game is just as more important as the weeks go on. Halfway point is where it starts. Trade deadline is in a couple days. Playoffs are in the air, dude. There's still a whole second half of the season, but people are starting to gear up. You got to get ready.
Think about this. If the Panthers beat the Falcons, I think
would they go up by half a game?
They would take the lead over the Falcons, and depending on how the Bucks and the Saints do, they may take first or second in that division. For being as bottom in that division, you win against the right teams, divisional games, and you can make a push. You maybe not necessarily win all your games, but if you win the right games, you could find yourself in the playoffs. Hell, we've seen teams go under 500 and make the playoffs.
The NFC East for years.
The NFC East for years, and even Seattle that one year, but the Panthers one year as well. Like they're teams that they can do it. They can do it, and I believe more in the Falcons could do it than the Panthers.
I do too.
Because Marcus Mariota is playing very well, actually. He's playing a lot better than everyone expected.
Yeah, he's exceeding a lot of expectations. It's just that defense, man. They play good one week and then they completely fold the next. You saw them fold last week.
Yeah.
They folded heavy when just a week ago, prior to that, it was like night and day. You got to do more of what you did 2 weeks ago for the rest of the season so you can see yourself in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's rough.
It's rough, because you just don't know what defense is going to come out.
And, I mean, granted, the Panthers are not that better of a defensive team either because, think about it, they've only had 10 sacks as a team this year. 5 of them came from one player, Brian Burns.
I just saw that the Panthers actually turned down multiple first-round draft picks for a trade for him. They just said no. They put the clamps on him. So, outside looking in, why? If you just dump the rest of your team, you
got rid of Christian McCaffrey,
right? So you're clearly heading into an overhaul. So you have PJ Walker on offense and you have Brian Burns on defense. Those are your two pieces.
That's it.
You're going to have a long road ahead of you.
Well, they still got DJ Moore, but he's not really a stellar wide receiver. He's a good one. He's solid.
He's a solid number
Panthers.
2.
But like on any other team, you're right. He's a number 2 wide receiver. But man, it's the Panthers they do have a road to the playoffs, which is sad, which is weird to think about because they've been so bad this whole year, but yet they win a game like this. It puts them right in the conversation.
Which is unfortunate.
Which is so crazy to think about because we think that teams or a division where going to the playoffs sub 500, we're like, oh, NFC East. But no. those teams mean business this year.
Yeah, it's crazy coming out of the NFC East this year.
But man, this one it's funny. You and I, we've talked about this off air where it's like anything can happen in divisional games. And so this game, I think whatever expectation we have going forward into this game, just eliminated completely. Because it's a divisional game that's just going to, anything can happen. Hell, last week, the Panthers and Bucks, that was a divisional game. Anything can happen.
It's crazy to me that the Panthers have 2 divisional games week by week, like 1 week after the next.
It's not that uncommon. Think about this. The Browns had the Ravens this week, and they have the Bengals next week.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not uncommon, but those games matter. And those
back-to-backs really, they
matter a lot.
Because if you can take, like let's say in the instance for Carolina, if they were to win, they would go, if they were to win this week, and then let's say the Bucks lose to New Orleans.
Oh, the Bucks lose to the Ravens, and New Orleans loses to Vegas.
Okay, so let's say they both lose. Carolina goes up in the division by half a game.
Yep, and they have divisional leads over...
Right, over 3 out of the 4 teams?
Yeah,
Did they play the Saints yet?
They beat the Saints.
They beat the Saints.
That's how they beat the Saints and the
Bucks.
Bucks, and if they beat the Falcons...
They'd be up by 1 on every... So did they go up by a full game?
They would actually take the lead in that division.
By a full game?
Because everyone would be 3-5 at that point, and they would have...
The divisional wins.
They would have the divisional wins.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
That is crazy. That is so crazy to think about. And to think Baker Mayfield will just watch from the sidelines.
That guy just ain't it.
No,
he just ain't it. But I feel like this game could be pretty exciting to watch, on from the outside pointing in, looking at the Falcons. Falcons should be a team to watch this week.
This is going to be a game to watch, and I want to watch this one. And it may be, I don't know, I'm not having any expectations for this game, but it's just going to be important going forward.
I just hope that if the Carolina Panthers, they really think about going into next year, they know how to lose correctly. Because they didn't show it last week. And that's more so just my final thought on Carolina. Y'all got to figure out what your game plan is. Are you going to play the season out, or are you going to jump ship and start over next year? What are you doing?
It's going to be an interesting call either way.
I don't understand.
So let's move on to another divisional game, but this time in the NFC West. The 49ers and the Rams, second game rematch this year. Your thoughts going into this game?
As of right now, 49ers are the better team. And by a long shot, they're the better team. And now that they have the addition of Christian McCaffrey, they're one of the most versatile offenses in the league, if not the most versatile offense in the league.
We got to see more from them. We got to see more on offense and see how they operate. Because against the Chiefs, you weren't going to win that game.
No,
the Chiefs are just too hot this year for them.
This is the game to show it.
This is the game where it's going to be the chess match. Mm-hmm. I believe when we talked about this game earlier, we said this is going to be the chess match between Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. And more times than not, Kyle Shanahan beats Sean McVay. Mm-hmm. But this time it's in LA, and both teams they don't have momentum. They're a little banged up, and their flaws are very apparent. But they match up very well against each other.
They always have for years. They have, I like this matchup a lot, but that offensive arsenal on the 49ers, man, and the way that the Rams are playing, I feel like the offense on the other side would not be able to keep up.
Now, both teams are doing it differently. What I mean by flaws is that the Rams have now been a very pass-dominant team. As a team, so far this year, they have, a total of 423 total rushing yards as a team. That is horrible to have going into week 8, because that's less than 50 yards a game? That's not even 100 yards a game.
It's got to be less than 50.
It's got to be about 50, 60 yards a game. It's not sustainable. Because if you're not running the ball, you're not giving any chance for any big plays down the field. We were talking about this off air. The Rams are very Cooper Kupp dependent right now. And being that they cannot and will not run the ball, that's going to hurt them. Because the 49ers, their best attribute is that they run the ball. They have almost more than double the Rams' rushing yards going into this game. They have 840 something. It's crazy to think about. And so but the 49ers' flaw is passing. Their quarterback, he can't always deliver the ball to the playmakers.
Yeah, and so that's unfortunate.
So Rams are very pass heavy. 49ers are very run heavy. Very different style of offenses. But again, like we saw the first game on that Monday night in San Francisco, this was a chess match until the fourth quarter, where that one big play, boom, that pick six, opened the whole game.
Sometimes that's all you need is one huge play. And, 49ers are full of playmakers on offense. It's unfortunate that, Jimmy G, for years, he was just, he was the coattails of Tom Brady. He was thrown into a situation in San Francisco that, he probably could have brought, but at that point, Green Bay was too hot, kept kicking them out of the playoffs. They were not playing well. They started not playing well. They started looking like they were ready, but they were still missing one piece. At all times, they were missing one piece, and that one piece is a functioning quarterback.
A healthy quarterback too, because he's missed a lot of time there. But thank God for Jimmy G that he's been healthy this year. It's still unfortunate for Trey Lance, and we're still wishing you a very speedy recovery. And we hope to see Trey Lance next year. Whether that's for the 49ers or not, we'll see. That's yet to be determined because
that's going to be crazy.
It's all dependent on the success of the 49ers this year.
Yeah.
If the 49ers are successful with Jimmy G, with the team that they have, they're going to probably stick to that team. Teams typically, when they're successful, they don't really change too much. Because it's like, hey, we've had success doing it this way. Why change it? Just like the Rams. Rams were like, we've had success last year. So they didn't really change that much on their team. They just got Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner and lost Von Miller. So it's like their team is different, but their core is the same.
Right.
But their core is not having success right now, especially coming from that offensive line. They cannot. Their offensive line is the biggest weakness for the Rams. And when you watch this game, they're going to make hell. It's going to be hell for Matt Stafford.
Yeah, and that goes with the retiring of their Hall of Fame center at the end of the last Super Bowl, if you remember.
Oh, no, it was the left tackle, Andrew Whitworth.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
But that's an important piece on that offensive line.
Huge. Hall of Fame lineman you have. And he just won a Super Bowl. He's like, yeah, I'm done. Now you have to worry about filling that hole. So, and clearly they have not filled it with the right personnel yet. It is going to be unfortunate to watch Matt Stafford be rushed as much as he is.
I will also say this. One thing that is not spoken about enough, and maybe we should just bring it up, is Jalen Ramsey's not playing well this year.
Oh, God, no.
He's getting smoked every game. Which
he really is just getting cooked.
Because going into the season, we would think that he's probably the best cornerback in the league. But this year, he's not.
No.
He's really not. And Debo's
special.
Debo's special, and he is going to make hell for Ramsey. Was on that Monday night, that big long play that Debo had that breaking tackles, he broke off Jalen Ramsey. He said, "Get off me."
You're not going to tackle Debo Samuel with one person.
No.
It's just not going to happen. And you're definitely not going to tackle him with one Jalen Ramsey.
No.
He's going to bounce off of you like you are nothing. You are just in his way if you bring one person down.
And I think, especially now with Brandon Ayuk getting more looks too, it's going to be a very hard day for Jalen Ramsey. I mean, granted, they're home, and that's good, but he needs to play better, especially with the expectations that we have of him this year. I got to look into it. I didn't write it down, but I got to look to see how many yards he's given up as a cornerback this year, because I'm sure
it's up there.
It's probably up there.
It's definitely up there. Got to keep in mind. Remember, think about last year. Trayvon Diggs, he had, I think it was 11 interceptions.
11 interceptions,
but he gave up over 1,000 yards receiving.
But now Jalen Ramsey's not getting those picks.
Right now he's letting up picks that he probably could get. He's blown assignments. And he's getting burned off the line of scrimmage. Again, he's one of the older cats in the league right now. I think he's in year 12?
No. This is probably 7 or 8. This is probably his 8th season, I would say.
Okay, that's about the average.
He's a vet, though.
That's the average for secondary is about 8 seasons.
Yeah.
8 to 10. So another one that you can probably see hanging it up rather soon.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but he's got to play better if the Rams need to. There's a lot of players that need to play better for the Rams because they should be better, but they're just not.
But they're not. They are not the better team going into this week. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be very tough.
It's going to be a very tough game for them.
Final thoughts on this game?
High hopes for the Rams, but they are outmatched and outclassed in this game, I feel.
Well, it's a divisional game. Anything can happen in divisional games. But let's move on to not a divisional game. The Sunday night primetime and interconference game between the Packers and the Bills. I can't believe this is the Sunday night primetime, but I'm guessing the people who made the schedule probably expected the Packers to be better. I know we expected the Packers to be better than what they are, but they are bad this year. They're real bad this year. Oh, man. And the Bills coming off a bye week, the Packers on a 3-game losing streak, and they're walking into a buzzsaw in Buffalo. That's a tall order. That's a really tall order, especially for Aaron Rodgers. Oh, but man, what are your thoughts on this game?
What is happening to Green Bay?
Well,
You
we'll talk about it. We know what's happening in Green Bay.
They are in so much trouble. And it's the pinch of Aaron Rodgers is really what this is. That's all it is you look at this is just cutting off your nose to spite your face. They paid this man so much money to the point where they lost who's going to be number 2 wide receiver in the league, Devontae Adams.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a future Hall of Famer.
He's a future Hall of Famer.
Got rid of him. Now you have to worry with young guys and an old man who does not playing with young guys. He doesn't like playing with them. You can see it. He does not like the personnel that he has on his team. So, and then going on the other side to the Bills. They don't belong on the same field. They just don't. You want to talk about an outmatch and an outclass? It's not even close. The Green Bay Packers don't look like they can win a game. The Bills look like they can win a Super Bowl. It's such an outclass here. But it all is underlying with Aaron Rodgers and really the chokehold that he put on that franchise.
Yeah. I want to build off what you said. So you asked rhetorically, what is wrong with the Packers? Yes, it's Aaron Rodgers. I also want to make sure that the defense is also to blame as well. The defense going into this year should be better than what it is, but it's not. Especially in the draft, they had a very heavy defensive draft. We even discussed this too, where they drafted a lot of people from Georgia who won the national championship last year. So they have elite rookie talent on that defense. Now they also have Jair Alexander came back after injury. Adrian Amos is still a great safety, and Kenny Clark is still a great anchor for the defensive line. But they're just not getting it done on defense. Teams are having their way, and maybe it's specific matchups, but the defense is not getting it done because think about it last week, Jair Alexander, phenomenal cornerback. He's a phenomenal cornerback, one of the best at his position. He got absolutely smoked by Terry McLaurin last week.
Right.
He got absolutely smoked on plays that typically we've seen him cover better wide receivers too. Not taking anything away from Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's great. But he just, for whatever reason, he just didn't have it. The defense is not getting there in sacks. They're not generating consistent pressure. And they're giving up points. And by the time that the offense actually wakes up on the field, they're like, oh shit, we have a game to play. It's too late. And that's exactly why they lost to the Commanders last week. And in this game against Buffalo is if Aaron Rodgers is sleeping on offense in the first half, the game is going to be unwatchable come the second half because it's going to be all Bills all day, and they're not going to let up the lead because this year we have not seen Aaron Rodgers comeback win.
No,
but typically he doesn't. We think of him as a comeback quarterback, but he's typically not. He's done a few comebacks here and there, but it seems that once they're down, they're out. And the Bills are the ultimate team where it's like, once they put up points, you're out.
Yeah, once they sense blood, they put their foot on your throats, and that's just it. They just apply pressure till it's over.
And that's it. And we've seen
50-point outing.
It's very possible. it's very possible, but
it's going to be such.
But also, again, what's wrong with the Packers? And yes, it is Aaron Rodgers. He is not playing well because he does not trust his rookie wide receivers. His three players that he trusts, or the three leading receivers, are Lazard, Cobb, and Tunyon, who's a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the vets on the team.
And they're still some of the youngest on the team.
He's just giving the ball to his vets, which is fine. But the team, you need to give it to your young players because those are the players that are getting the best matchups. They're getting the one-on-one matchups against the second and three cornerbacks, and that's where you're going to find success. You got to trust your young wide receivers. Also, give the fucking ball to Aaron Jones. Give this man the ball. He's a top 5 running back in the league. You're just not giving him the ball.
You're just not doing it.
Like it's baffling because when the Packers are successful, like he has about 20 to 25 carries, and like that's when you see like the Packers take control of the game. Just give it to Aaron Jones. He's one of the best running. It's like you don't even have to rely on your rookie wide receivers, but or your receiving core in general. You can be a great. This league has shown, especially this year, where teams can be successful with subpar quarterback play, a great running game, along with a great defense. And it seems right now the Packers, they have a subpar quarter. Like he's playing subpar right now. They do not have a great defense, and they don't commit to the run. They have a great running back and a great running back tandem in Jones and Dillon, but they don't want to run the ball. So it's like what's wrong with the Packers is like they just don't have a winning formula.
No, and honestly, again, to piggyback off of that goes right back to Aaron Rodgers because for years he's been a field general.
Yeah,
you aren't going to tell me what play to run. He could be hearing a run play. He's walking up to the line of scrimmage, calling a hot route. We're going to throw a pass play real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the coach going to do? He's not going to burn a timeout.
Because in these past years, it's like, well, who am I going to doubt the back-to-back MVP?
Right. Am I going to doubt this man for seeing something I don't? But now he's not even doing it because he sees it. He's doing it out of spite.
No. Yeah.
He's playing completely for himself. He's not playing for the team. So that you can see the team wants to succeed. But until they get rid of him, they're not going to.
Well, he's with them for another 2 years.
He's turned the Green Bay Packers into such a toxic pit simply because he wanted to be paid. And then you go the whole drama sequence that has been going on between him and the franchise is just childish and is causing them to not to play well.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers has become late career Brett Favre.
Yes. Correct.
He has become the one quarterback that he did not want to be. And I say that as like it's an aging quarterback for the last couple of years. He's like, will I retire? Will I not retire? You know what? I'll stick around. And by the time like they make their decision, their play is not what it used to be. They're really riding on the coattails of their success from over a decade ago. By the time Aaron Rodgers came into the league, it was like, was it 10 years since Brett Favre's Super Bowl win?
Yeah.
So he is now the late career Brett Favre, and still talented
for sure.
But your teams are not going to ultimately get where you expect them to be, especially now with the Vikings 5-1 and the Packers 3-4. You're falling behind, mate.
You're falling real behind, and in layman's terms, he's the salty old guy at your job that doesn't want to retire, but he should.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd still like to hang out with him one day, but I think that he's
salty because they drafted another quarterback to replace him.
Yeah, but even still, I think he's just mad that this season in particular that he it's like, look at what's with my offensive talent. It's like, mate, your antics deliberately correlated to Devontae Adams wanting to go to another team.
and you wanted such a big contract, they can't get you other pieces on either side of the ball.
Exactly.
So the focal point of your issues are you. They're self-inflicted.
It's be careful what you wish for. Aaron Rodgers, if what you wish for was money,
you got it.
You got it. But it's at the cost of getting talent for your team.
It's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Exactly.
You know, it's you want to be paid now. Great. You haven't won us a Super Bowl. That was the argument. It's you keep getting us to the NFC Championship or the divisional round, and we're losing. You have not got us a Super Bowl. I want my money. And you pretty much demanded it, or you were talking about that retirement, hinting at doing things off on another network, and they decided to pay you. And as soon as you were paid, they lost the budget for your entire support team. Unfortunately, that entire support team was one player, but that's on you.
Well, they also gave Aaron Jones the contract too, which is good.
But you got to give your superstar
the contract. You got to spread the wealth.
Right.
That's why the Rams are able to keep so many great players around and still add players as well. Like, they spread the wealth around. No one takes a ridiculous amount of money, except, this offseason with Aaron Donald. But even prior to that, no one really takes an absurd amount of money. And everyone's able to get paid. And once you're able to pay great players, you're going to have a good team. Look at Buffalo. They were willing to spread the wealth around. Josh Allen has a contract, Stephon Diggs, and they were able to get Von Miller.
Yeah.
And he's been the biggest difference on that Bills team.
Oh, I agree.
And I cannot wait to see him sack Aaron Rodgers.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun on one side. Any final thoughts on this game?
It's going to be a long day for Packers fans.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's going to be a very long game.
So let's make our picks for this upcoming week. So, Chris Palmer, you ready to make our picks?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, let's start with the Thursday night game with my Baltimore Ravens going into Tampa to play the Bucs. I'm taking the Ravens. Of course I am.
I swear to God, if the Ravens don't come out on top of this game, we got some talking to do.
We got some talking.
Tampa is not playing well. The London game, Denver and Jacksonville.
Oh, wait, so you're taking the Ravens?
Yeah, I'm going to go
Okay. So the London game, the
Denver
Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars, yes. I'm going to take the Jags. This is their second home field, and I think that they will be the most prepared team going into this week.
Yeah, I can't help but agree. I'm going to go with Jacksonville on that one. Moving on to Atlanta and Carolina.
I'm going to go with Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised if I was by the performance of Carolina, but I'm giving this more so. I like what the Falcons have been doing at home.
Okay. I'm going to go Atlanta too. It's more so just because of everyone that Carolina has just done. That was a fluke. Bucs are playing a lot worse than they should be. They're going to have a very rough time against Atlanta this week. So I'm going to go Atlanta. Chicago, Dallas.
Now, which Chicago Bears team is going to show up? That's the real question. I'm going to go with Dallas. Bears might make it close, but Justin Fields is the most sacked quarterback going into this game, and I think Mike Parsons is just going to be like, hey, I want my 3-piece. I want my 4 for 4.
This is where we're going to split. I'm going to go with Chicago.
Ooh.
I liked what I saw.
Okay.
And again, I feel like this is a very fast-paced offense versus a very methodical offense on the other side with Dallas. So it's going to become more of a defensive scheme. Who can stop who can make a turnover happen. I think Chicago can somehow squeak through this one.
Okay.
Fuck Dallas. Miami versus Detroit.
Man, part of me, I want to take Detroit, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take the Dolphins. Watch, the one game we don't pick them, they're going to win.
And they're going to win excitingly, too. Watch.
But this is going to be an entertaining game. Can the Dolphins get back on track? I think so. I think they can, and I would like to see it.
Yeah, I like to see it, too. I'm going to go with Miami as well. It's fun watching Alabama quarterbacks run their team right. Jalen Hurts and Tua. It's fun watching
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones is playing okay. He was kind of the dopey dragon out of the 3 dragons that came out of Alabama. Yeah. both playing great, and then you see him. It's like, okay. Arizona and Minnesota.
Who you got?
I'm gonna go Arizona on this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Arizona again. I liked what I saw last week. I want to see more.
I'm going to go with Minnesota. Again, I think they can outlast the Cardinals in a game of attrition. The big plays will happen, but I think Minnesota's going to control the game more. And ultimately, that's going to be the deciding factor.
Okay. That's going to be a very fun game. I think this could actually wind up being game of the week.
Okay.
Las Vegas and New Orleans.
I want to take the... I'm going to take the Raiders.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. There's something about it.
But man, if they lose this one,
they're in trouble.
They're in real trouble.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders with you, but if they lose, they are in trouble.
I wouldn't be surprised if they lose, but I'm going... This is my last chance taking them.
I'm going to go... Okay, I'm going to go into Vegas as well. New England and the Jets. Do the Jets move to 7-1?
You know what? I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid and go with the Jets on this one. My better instinct says that Belichick historically has just the Jets number. But, I don't know, that was a really deflating loss for New England. And the Jets are riding high in momentum. I'm going to take the Jets on the momentum.
I'm going to go with the Jets as well, man. Jets are very exciting.
Yeah.
The undecidedness of who's going to be playing at quarterback in New England, that hurts.
Yeah.
Not having Breece Hall is going to be rough, but let's see if the late minute hole fill for the Jets helps. And that defense, that defense is nothing to trifle with. Sauce Gardner he's the truth.
Sauce.
He is the truth.
Sauce.
Pittsburgh and Philly.
I'm sorry, babe, but it's Philly all day.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Philly on this one, too. From the bottom of my heart, we don't belong on the field with Philly.
I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game than people think.
Yeah, we're going to hold them, but it's still going to...
It's going to be like a 23-16 game.
Something like that.
Something like that. But Philly.
Philly all the way. Tennessee and Houston.
Tennessee is actually on a winning streak right now. They're winning the games they need to, and this is another divisional game that they need to win.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Derrick Henry starts coming back true to form.
Mm-hmm.
We always talk about him as like a slow revving chainsaw. Hopefully the kickstart was last week, and he can actually start producing what he did. So it's going to be exciting. Washington and Indy.
I'm going to take Washington because Matt Ryan's not going to be starting. It's going to be Sam Ehlinger. And I think Washington just plays better under Taylor Heineke. He doesn't turn the ball over as much as Carson Wentz. And that receiving core is really good for Washington. So I'm going to pick the Commanders this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns with Indy. I feel weird going for them. So I'm going to go with Washington.
Okay.
There's just a lot of unknowns when you see that Indy team coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. San Francisco and the Rams.
I'm sorry, Bates. I'm taking San Fran. They just, at this point in time, they're the better team. And Kyle Shanahan typically beats Sean McVay. And each passing week, the 49ers are getting healthier. While the Rams, they're
kind of staying in the same place.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the 49ers. I'm sorry, Bates.
I'm not even sorry. I'm going to go with the 49ers. The Rams have given me no inclination to go for them. They have not been playing well, and the 49ers are just playing better. They're the better team.
Yeah.
Giants in Seattle.
Who you got for this game?
I got to stand with New York football, man.
Okay.
I was going to go with the Giants. I think the Jets and Giants, they both moved 7-1 this week.
Well, the Jets would be 6-2.
They lost
twice.
Okay.
They lost to the Bengals and the Ravens.
You're right. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Giants on this one.
I'm going to go with Seattle on this one. Giants have been playing well, but I think Seattle has been playing a little bit... They just have more explosiveness on offense. Even after losing DK Metcalf last week, they still put up 37 points on the Chargers. And the Chargers have a good defense. Not healthy, but still good. I'm going to go with Seattle on this one.
Okay. Do I even need to ask you who you think's going to win, Green Bay and Buffalo?
Green Buffalo. It's Buffalo all day.
It's going to be such a roll. The Buffalo Bills are going to roll Green Bay.
You remember when the Bills smacked the Titans earlier this year? Yeah, that's going to be against Green Bay.
Yeah, just about. And then Monday, Cincy, Cleveland.
Another wild divisional game. A primetime divisional game. And I got to give it to the Browns. They're not playing bad. They're not a great team, but they're not bad. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. Did you think I was going to go with the Browns?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go with Cincinnati to ultimately win because they're still the better team. But I would not be surprised if the Browns win this game.
I would be. Cincinnati is the much better team. You know, that offensive line is finally getting it together, and they're fucking protecting Joe Burrow. And Myles Garrett, who else do they have?
Well, they got good cornerbacks. They
got about pass rush.
Pass rush? No one.
No one. You know, and it's one person going up against 5 Pro Bowlers now.
Well, also, the Bengals' defense is really not that good. I expect Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to have a great day.
I can see them having a good day, but they're not going to score many points.
No. I think this is probably going, again, another low-scoring game. Points have been down throughout games this entire season. A lot of games, there's really not a lot of high-scoring games, but this is probably going to be a close divisional game, and I don't know. I think it might be worthy of being the Monday night primetime.
I think so. I say there's a little bit of excitement because it's our division. You know,
well,
this game is very important. There you have it, guys. There's our picks. We are very excited for this week. There's some really good games going on. Do you have any final thoughts?
Hey, there's a lot of great football this week, and I can't wait to check it all out.
That's right. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe to our page. We are Let's Talk Football, and we are excited for another week.